Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Slightly different show tonight, guys. It's something that we're going to try, something completely different. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. every night, myself and 4 or 5 other guests will help me get through the rest of the week, I think, despite talking about what's on their mind that's Man United related. So let's introduce the guests first and then we'll get straight into it. Connor, thanks for joining me on my first show hosted on the All for United main account.
I know, I can't believe you've managed to get John Foster MUFC onto the main account. I was well after you said that. I've never thought of it the other day, so that's a positive in itself because the football's not exactly great across any United side at the moment, is it? So,
well, you was at the game yesterday. How disappointing was it to go out on penalties? Under 19s, was it? 19s?
Yeah, under 9. It was more disappointing actually the fact we dominated most of the game. The ref didn't help. Awful. To be fair, Dortmund actually brought a few fans over, which I was quite surprised at. They had about 20, 30 fans making some noise, which fair play to them, travelling for an under 19s Champions League. But yeah, penalties were awful. I mean, nothing on the League Cup final of the weekend. So yeah, I guess it's just another disappointing game I've been to live.
Yeah. Dale, welcome to the show. Hey, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for having me on again. Obviously, I was on last week, so it's my second one now. Appreciate it. Hopefully, many more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, getting a regular now. And you was on with Callum, and Callum's back again today. How you doing, mate?
Oh, you all right? Not too bad. It's always a pleasure to be on this channel, of course.
I'm looking forward to doing a show with you as well. So looking forward to getting into that, definitely.
Well, I don't know if Connor told you, but I try not to get too annoyed at things, so I'll do my best.
For some reason, everyone talks about you behind your back, Callum, and not in a bad way either. It's everyone knows Callum. When I was new to the channel and I only watched the odd show, it's like, oh, look out for Callum, try and get Callum on this show, and let's
Do you know why? Do you know why that is?
Why is that?
Because I'm fucking mint, mate.
Awesome. And also John in the comments, by the way. Good to see you. I'll see you on Saturday for the women's team match up in Leeds Sports Village. That'll be a cracking game there. Kyle, how you doing, mate? You okay?
Great, fantastic for the invite. Good to be on your show.
No, brilliant to have you, mate. And it's all about getting like some new faces on there. And obviously, there's a lot of people on the main account that I've never met. I might have watched a few videos here and there, but it's great to be on board myself. Is it pronounced? Is it Rayhan? Is that the correct pronunciation? Oh, are you on mute?
Oh, he's not on mute. Something's wrong with your microphone, mate.
First show technical difficulties, who would have thought, Angel?
I was just saying, using a mute symbol there, so
technical difficulties, all for United, never. Doesn't happen over here.
It was okay before the show. We'll crack on anyway, just while he's trying to figure that out. Just start talking, Rayhan, when you think that you've sorted it. You've got the mute button there now.
He's definitely muted now. Go on. We'll move on and come back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to make a start. So, my topic, and I won't always bring this something to the table. I want to hear you guys talk and what's on your mind. But I will, just because it's the first show, I will say something that's on my mind. So, whenever I'm either driving or I'm getting ready for bed or I'm relaxing on the settee and Man United pops into my mind, I think one thing that frustrates me the most, or the one thing that's holding me back, is that there's a lack of discipline somewhere in the team. And I think that obviously comes from the top and it feeds down to the field. I just think that there's like no one's scared of anything anymore. And I think one of the reasons for that is the players kind of know that 9 times out of 10, that if they're a superstar signing, that yes, they might be dropped to an extent, but if they go run into the bosses, they're kind of getting rid of the manager before that the players are getting rid of. And I'm not saying that there's players that's never been dismissed before or moved on for one reason or another, but I do think that there's a click there that the board will listen to them, rightly or wrongly so. So my topic is, and I'll bring Dale in on this first. Then I just think that the players are more important than the manager. And back in the day, and I hate it when we always refer back to the glory days because it's a different club now. I can never imagine any player or any group of players being bigger than the manager. Whatever the manager says, would be the final line, and the board and the chief executive would respect that. I just feel that now that's not the case. What are your thoughts on that one, mate?
Yeah, obviously back in the day, we've had a couple. We've had like Beckham, Rooney thought he was bigger than the club at one stage. But yeah, in today's society, I think, are you on a bit like people like Pogba, maybe Ronaldo, Bruno?
Yeah, just anyone behind the scenes. I'm not actually naming names because we don't actually know for definite who's saying what. But I do believe that those kind of players, even Sancho, Rashford, is such a commodity. Even Lingard, who is maybe not as valuable as a price tag to be sold, but obviously he sells a lot of merchandise and he's probably got a better.
I do feel like he's quite influential, Lingard as well, because obviously. Rangnick had something today, had something else to say compared to what Lingard had to say, and that's obviously conflict of interest. That was about when it was a deadline day, and obviously he took time off for personal reasons, and he didn't turn up to training. But yeah, I do feel like you're right there that some of the players do have more control over the club than what they should have. Like, I feel like it's been the same for Pogba for years, and that's because of his agent. Obviously, it feels like the club can't go anywhere near him or say anything. His agent controls his life, basically. Controls his friendships, controls who he sees, what he does, etc., etc. And obviously, when you've got a player at your club, you want those loyalties at your club and not elsewhere. I feel like that's why when Pogba plays, sometimes he only puts in half a performance, if that, compared to when he plays for France. That's just a different subject. Ronaldo, I think you could see he wasn't happy with Ole's decisions, and obviously he gets very frustrated with the players. Obviously, it's Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the greatest of all time. We helped nurture him to become that in his younger career. So obviously, I feel like he's matured since then, and maybe he feels he probably is the biggest person or biggest player at the club. Obviously, his goals to games ratio have been out of this world, but they've been decent. Obviously, you want more from Ronaldo because it's Ronaldo. Excuse me. Bruno, I feel like Bruno was like a dog before Ronaldo came in. And I feel like since Ronaldo come in, he's had an influence on Bruno. And you can see that on the pitch. And that's like a negative in my opinion, because Bruno was always willing to run after a man, wouldn't complain. He was taking real leadership. And since Ronaldo's come in, it feels like Bruno's gone backwards and not forwards. And that's not what we want as a for him as a player. Because we can see what he's capable of. Obviously, he's still done good this season. His numbers are still crazy, to be fair, just to say as a midfielder. But I feel like, there is a few players that I feel like we could probably offload, to be fair, like the likes of Pogba, Lingard and stuff like that, and maybe bring in some workhorses and people who actually just want to play for the club and they love the club and respect the club and want to do it for the fans and not for themselves. And not try to out the manager whenever possible, because obviously I feel like they're not listening to Rangnick's obviously playing style as well. Obviously, you can see that when they play, it's just disorganised, not functional. It's not functioning correctly, and so yeah, I do agree with you on that aspect. I don't know if anyone else wants to follow on what I've just said.
The only thing, I'll keep mine brief, because the one thing I'll say is you've got to be careful with this, because I think the media is it past? Oh, it's not past 9 o'clock. I can't swear. But I was going to say that they throw a lot of crap at the wall, hoping seeing what sticks. There's a lot of stories that
because it's not 9 o'clock.
I don't know. I'll keep. It's John's first time. Got to abide by the rules.
If it was the women's channel, I'll be a little bit more.
Got to abide by the rules. But no, I think the media will make up a lot of stories about United, and it's some will be true, some won't be, and a lot came out about the players. Training after dark and all these kinds of things, and going over the manager and all these stories coming out. There'll be a few, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it was as bad as was made out. I think every news outlet was throwing everything at the wall, going, "Oh yeah, every player's unhappy. They're all saying this either," and in reality, that's not going to be the case. There'll be a few, and don't get me wrong, there'll be a few that have power in the dressing room, because ultimately, we all want United players to be United fans and to, like I said, have the bed sheets, have the curtains, all be best mates. But that's not going to happen. You can't throw a load of different people from all over the world, who don't necessarily support United, and throw them all together and expect them all to get on. And but ultimately they're there to do a job. So as long as they don't undermine the manager, then it is what it is. But there are people who have got influence along in the dressing room, likes of Lingard, probably Pogba. They'll have their own little friendship groups and people that are popular. But yeah, I don't think it's as bad as has been made out. Just playing slight devil's advocate a little bit on that one.
Devil's advocate. I can see what you did there.
I actually think Connor's pretty bang on there. Ultimately, with this kind of thing, you have got to be quite careful, because as much as in modern day football you do see there is quite a lot of player power, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, especially at Man United, and especially with the likes of the media constantly commenting on things, most of which probably aren't true. We've seen the likes of Rashford and Maguire come out and just rubbish a lot of stories. Pogba's done it in the past as well. So I do think we have to be careful when we do talk about this sort of stuff. In my eyes, I don't think there's too much to suggest that there's a lot of player power that overrules the manager. Ultimately, I think the manager probably does have the final say, and what he says goes, especially with Rangnick at the moment. I genuinely think he's that kind of character where players will listen to him, because he's got that respect and he's got that nous through his reputation and how he deals with different situations. Fundamentally, though, I think it kind of is just a bit of a sign of the modern game. At the end of the day, these people are multimillionaires. They're respected footballers. Some of them more respected than others, I'm sure. So I think it's kind of a sticky situation where you bring up player power, because it can look from the outside that sometimes they do have quite a lot. But I do genuinely think, obviously times change in football, and when you go back 30 years, I think that, like, when you go back to the likes of Alex Ferguson, Brian Clough, players wouldn't dare step out of line for those kind of people, and if they did, you know exactly what would happen. Whereas I think the game's just moved on now. It's a different it's a different sport. It's a different society that we live in. So it's ultimately, I think they do have more power. I think they do have more power, but I just think it's I think with some players it's definitely agents. I think Pogba's definitely the number one example of that. I would like Pogba to come out and rubbish a lot of what his agent says, and ultimately he doesn't, which is quite frustrating. It's just a sticky situation, I think, and it's quite hard to comment on when you don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. Ultimately, I think the manager does still have more power, because if he doesn't, you do question his management skills and his leadership skills if the players are constantly overruling him.
Cool. We've got a couple more minutes to spend on this one. Carl, do you want to have your say on this one?
Well, the board have been enabling player power for a few years now. The prime example that I always go back to is that Jose Mourinho wanted to sell Martial and Pogba, and the board got rid of Mourinho rather than those two players. So it's no wonder the players think that they're so powerful. You've seen even Pogba laughing on social media when Mourinho was sacked. I'm not too sure how seriously some of the players were taking Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, especially towards the end. They just had given up on him, really. And we see failure being rewarded as well. I mean, the likes of Phil Jones and Marcus Rojo getting new contracts inexplicably. It just shows you how badly the club was run under Ed Woodward. Like, we're hoping for better under Richard Arnold, but he's the same type of businessman, accountant, banker that Ed Woodward is. So I'm not hopeful. He's talking a good game, but the proof will be in the pudding this summer.
Cool, absolutely, yeah. Rayhan, are you back with us? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, lovely. I just want all sorted, mate. Thank you. There might be a bit of a delay.
I think all this player power stuff, you're just ruining football. You can see it happening sometimes. Chelsea's, not in cities, definitely not in cities, but most of these players just want power and just a lot of money, which is in the modern football you're getting with a 200k contract, 300k, 100k. So it's obvious the power is going to come with these players, just demanding more. But the Man United players, they ain't won nothing, just demanding more. First win the trophies, and then you could get more. But it's not going to happen. The Pochettino, and if you can, I still think he'll do well, because even though PSG is a very toxic club, that's an example as well of player power. Everyone has a demand of something, which is what ruins clubs to bottom.
Yeah, I think after listening to you guys, I think you have kind of like opened my mind a little bit. Maybe you shouldn't. Obviously, I don't take everything that I read. I know what it's like out there. I know 90% of it's fiction, but like I say, it does kind of frustrate me that we know kind of what the owners want, and they want money, and these players do bring in money. So I just sometimes feel that they probably want to keep the players happy more than the manager sometimes, and if that means that they have to kind of move on the manager just to keep the players happy, that's probably the biggest thing for me, if ever they have to do that. And I'm not saying that's going to happen just because the players want it to happen. It would happen over a period of time, but I guess that's the kind of thing that kind of worries me the most. Callum, I can see, do you want to come in again?
No, I think you're pretty bang on, really. I mean, I did just what I put. I mean, I responded in the comments, to be fair, but I wanted to respond to Vicky there. It really frustrates me and really annoys me when you've got players on social media who don't run it themselves, using PR companies or social media teams. I think if you're gonna, it gives fans that connection to your team, and if you're gonna be on it, either do it yourself or don't be on it at all. I just don't see the point, and I think the thing that makes it even more frustrating as well is it comes across a little bit like they don't care, especially when they put in a performance like they did at the weekend against Watford, because nobody was terrible, but nobody was good either on Saturday. I was at the game and I found myself screaming at the players, just asking them to do a bit of movement, get themselves closer together. And then after the game, you had players going, "Oh, we go again, and we're sorry it wasn't result." And then when you see they put that, I mean, Ronaldo's probably one of the worst for it. He's a brand in himself, so for a fact that a lot of the stuff that's on there is not him. So funnily enough, my topic that I want to speak about is Ronaldo, so we'll get on to that. But when you're seeing that these players are going, "Oh, we go again, and we need to do better, we need to do more, we'll blah blah blah, we'll get the game, we'll go for the next game," and then you see it's just some random employee that's wrote it, and it's not even the player themselves. It just shows that they're not really that bothered, I think, and I'd rather them just not put it at all, or not even be on social media at all. They're not going to do it themselves. Don't be on, in my opinion. It's so cringeworthy, and it's just a little bit pathetic, I think.
It's so unnecessary as well. I think, John, do you remember we had this chat, after the women's game at the weekend? Obviously, we lost in the derby. We were chatting to Deborah and Mark about this, about players who come out after a loss and put on the same thing. We go again, tough, sorry for the performance, sorry for whatever. You don't need to. We don't need to see that, because if you've had a bad day at work, you don't need to go around apologizing to everyone. "Oh, sorry, I didn't do that. Oh, sorry." You just forget about it. Go again the next day. You don't. I think there's a perception out there that players have to come on social media as soon as we've not played well, or as soon as we've not won the game, whatever, that they have to post something. No, they don't. I'd rather they didn't say a word all season and went back in training the next day and forgot about it and went on to the next one.
I think to be honest, I think when they first did it, when they first started noticing that the first post a few years ago, I think it was sort of okay when they did it. It was a bit like, oh, they've acknowledged it. But then when it came out that they all had social media teams, and then when the performances never changed and it was the same sort of consistent garbage that we were seeing on the pitch, and then they were putting it on, it lost its meaning. And then when we found out it was by social media teams, it became a needless and most pointless exercise for them to even bother doing it. And that's what annoyed me the most. I'd rather them just shut up. I'd rather them stop putting "we go again" on social media, and I'd want them to actually do the jobs and perform on a football pitch. to me, it's not hard to do. If you're a professional footballer playing for Manchester United, I don't want to sound entitled here and understand that we need to win every game, because that just isn't Manchester United on it anymore, unfortunately. I'd love it to be, but it isn't. The problem is they then come out and try and justify their performance by going online and putting a load of crap like 3 paragraphs of, we know we could have done better. There's no accountability of it. It's just it's almost like an empty apology.
Yeah.
And I'm not here for it. I just find it useless and pointless from them, to be completely honest.
Let's move on. Kyle, what's on your mind, mate?
Well, the question I was going to ask, was something on a wee bit more of a positive note, was, do you think we have a chance of winning the Champions League? I know it's absolutely ridiculous. I just thought I'd throw it out there for the crack. I don't actually believe that myself. Well, you never know. No stranger things have happened in the Champions League. We've seen the likes of Chelsea win it when they finished 6th. Liverpool obviously coming back from 3-0 down to win the Champions League, and they were nowhere near the best team in England when they did that. So you just, I suppose, if we can get past Atletico at Old Trafford and maybe get someone like Benfica in the next round, then you just never know. But I know I'm just being ridiculous by even suggesting it, but I just thought I would.
Kyle, mate, I've got to go to the doctor soon. Do you want me to ask them to get you some medication? Do you know what? You're right. Stranger things have happened, of course. Chelsea have done it. Liverpool have done it when they were 5th, and they were poor that season. Chelsea, when they finished 6th, they were brilliant. Worse things have happened. I think ultimately at this stage, top 4's gone. So the idea of winning the Champions League probably is, it might actually be our only hope of staying in the Champions League next year, because I genuinely think we'll be in the Conference League, if not. Stranger things have happened. I'm sure, it's knockout football. There's no more away goals. Yeah. But, like I say, strange things have happened, but I can't see it myself, to be honest.
There's a chat, I think, to quote the if anyone's seen the overlap live that went out a few days ago, as Roy
I know
Keane
exactly
said
what you're going to say.
Yeah, as Roy Keane said, no, worst teams have won the Champions League, so why can't this United side? The thing is, it's in one-off game. Our main competition in the Champions League is going to be the other English sides. PSG, you could argue, there or thereabouts. Barcelona, Real Madrid are not what they were, even though they're still good sides. But it's the English sides that it's going to be City and Liverpool. If they keep getting the draws that they are, then it would likely be those two heading towards the finalists, at very least semi-finals. So if we can beat those in one-off games, obviously this season we've not really shown it, but in previous years we have been able to hold our own against Liverpool and City. So in the bigger side, so there is an opportunity there. I wouldn't be putting bets on us winning, no chance. And I think anyone would be a bit over optimistic if we were sat here going, yeah, we've really got a good chance, but we have got a chance, and that's all you need in cup competitions. So we've got to get past Atletico first. That's not going to be an easy one to turn around. I think everyone's just saying because it's at home that we've got a bit more an advantage. Yeah, we have, but if we play like we did 2 weeks ago or a week or so ago, we ain't going to be getting past them either. So yeah, we can. There's no reason why we can't. And when you've got Mr. Champions League himself up top, then there's no reason why not.
Yeah, I agree. I want to bring Dan in shortly, but just to have my quick say on that, I think we stand more of a chance of winning the cup than the league, because the league, you have to be so consistent over 38 games, where with the cup, it's obviously a lot less games, and I think on any given day we could potentially put out 2 or 3 good results, but 2 or 3 good results in the Premier League isn't good enough, is it? So, I don't fancy us to win, but I think there's more chance of us winning a cup of any kind than the league at the moment.
Well,
go on,
sorry, John, carry on.
No, that's it, mate. Yeah.
I was just going to say, when Connor said then about I certainly won't be putting any bets on. United are actually 20-1, which I think are very good odds.
Yeah.
Like I actually think, I genuinely, like we said, stranger things have happened. I genuinely think that is actually really good odds. I think that would really be worth a punt. I think
it's worth a few quid anyway.
Yeah. Dale, your thoughts on
it's
this,
definitely
mate?
worth.
Obviously, yeah. I got asked.
I think
Oh, go on, you carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think to be fair, with it being 20-1, I think that means if you put a tenner on, you lose a tenner. But it's still worth it.
Yeah, obviously I got asked this question in the last show. It was the last question asked, and I did say no. Obviously, that's obviously just following the performance against Atletico. Obviously, we got the draw, which was huge. Obviously, that means we got the home crowd now, home advantage. But obviously, like Connor was saying, obviously, like Connor was saying, was yeah, we do have the problem would be Liverpool, City, and I think even Chelsea would actually be a problem as well. Obviously, I feel like they was unlucky against Liverpool on the weekend, but that's another topic for another day. But yeah, so obviously, I think Chelsea would be a problem as well, and them three clubs could actually just on any given day do us. But obviously, I feel like depending on the right discipline and the right tactical guidance from Ranić, we could beat them. Obviously, when we face Man City next, we'll see how we can do against that. But I feel like honestly, I'm not confident of us winning the Champions League. Obviously, because you mentioned PSG yourself, that's another big club, and Mbappe could just literally just turn up.
I don't know about big club.
They are. Look at the money. Look at the stature. Obviously, they got
No,
Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar. They are a big club. Obviously, yeah, they're playing in League One. I refer them as a big club, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, so I feel like I'm not confident of us winning it. And obviously, you mentioned about cups. We've like was it 4 semi-finals we lost under Ole, was it? And obviously, we lost the final to Villarreal. So I feel like we've had our chances to win cups, and we just can't do that. Obviously, the last time it was Jose. The last time we won a trophy, if I'm correct. True, it was. And obviously, that was how many years ago now? 2017, was it? So we're in limbo at the minute. We're in limbo, and I honestly just don't know where to go from here. And it's just worrying as a United fan, obviously, because we want silverware, and obviously, as we see, all of our rivals around us, they're getting silverware. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. I don't think we're going to win the Champions League. A bit negative. But I want us to win it. I want them to prove us wrong. I said that, like, prove me wrong, please prove me wrong, because I'll be the most happiest man ever. But yeah, I just don't think we've got it in us.
No, yeah, you're right. We haven't, because they're all useless. But I just wanted to pull on the comment brought up. I kind of, there's a lot of ex-United players that are pundits and very, very famous pundits at the moment. Gary Neville probably being the top one. Ultimately, I kind of think it shows if the players are getting affected by the former United players as pundits. I think if they're getting affected and listening to them, I think it shows a lot about them as a person. I think that them getting affected by that shows them that maybe they just haven't got the headspace to be a Man United player. Ultimately, being a pundit is, they're always going to give their opinion. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's an opinion. You're not always going to agree with it. Some of them are insanely ridiculous, like the likes of Michael Owen and Jermaine Genius. But, the ex-United players, they're going to leave a comment on United because they care about the club. The likes of Roy Keane and Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, they're going to have strong opinions, especially with the state of the club that it's in at the minute and the success that they had. The problem is these players need to prove these pundits wrong, and they need to kind of, if they're letting it affect the performance, I don't think they've got the mental capacity to play for United. And there's nothing wrong with that. I personally think that about Harry Maguire. But I think, I like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think, they need to be able to put that aside and be able to just perform as a football player at the club and do the job. If they start letting things like that affect them, then I just don't think they've got it in them to be a Man United player from a mental standpoint. Yeah,
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Conor, I just throw that question to you as well, because I know how much you like listening to Roy Keane and Gary Neville. Are you in a very similar mindset to Callum?
Yeah, I'm total agreement, to be honest. It shouldn't affect them. I think that they said, didn't they, that Gary, you're talking about Gary and Roy there, that they even said, they didn't used to listen to what pundits say. They shouldn't really, footballers. Why would you put yourself through your footballers will be their own.
That shows the difference, doesn't it?
Exactly. I think footballers will be their own worst critic. They'll know if they've had a bad game or not. Not only if they don't know, they're going to get told by the analysts and the coaching staff and the manager. They'll be getting told by everybody that what they're doing wrong and where to improve. They don't need to listen to pundits, so it shouldn't make a difference to them. They should be listening to the analysts and the coaching staff and buying into whatever that, I hate using that phrase, but that process is at the time.
Dale, what's on your mind, mate?
Well, obviously, I feel like everyone's probably got a lot to say about this one. What's gone so horribly wrong this season, and how can we turn it around in the remaining games? Obviously, we've got the same losses already as last year, and we've got 3 draws away of equaling last year's record as well. And obviously, we've got how many games? 11 games left. What do you guys think has gone wrong so wrong this season?
So because this show is like a little bit, it is a little bit down, it is a little bit negative. It's not usually like the kind of shows that I do. Let's twist it just slightly and say,
Okay.
how are we going to end this season on a high? What are we going to do about that? Kyle, what are your thoughts? How are we going to end this season on a high?
Good. That's $1 million question. I really don't know what the answer is. We need to start putting the ball into the back of the net. Just as I know, it sounds like Michael Owen want to say that, but we're actually creating chances at the moment. We're controlling games a bit better. We're looking slightly better defensively, but we're just not putting the ball into the back of the net. If we can be a bit more clinical in front of goal, then we might get some results. But I think that the 5 draws in the last 7 games kind of symbolises how wasteful we've been. If we can improve on that, then we might get some results now. I know we were thrashed in the big games that earlier in the season, when the players kind of give up on Solskjaer. But in the most recent seasons, we've got good results against the big teams, especially Manchester City. So and we've got good results away to City as well. So that gives me a slight bit of hope this Sunday. Obviously they're massive favourites and you still expect them to win, but I won't be surprised if United upset a few predictions on Sunday, because City are always the favourites against us, and sometimes that seeps through to the City players to come a bit complacent. I think they just have to turn up the win, and then United show up on the day and give absolutely 100% and manage to get the win. So I wouldn't be surprised if United won at the weekend, and then that would be a springboard to help us maybe finish the season strongly.
John in the comments has said win the Champions League. He's got his heart set on this Champions League. Go on, Callum.
How can we make it better? We need to stop being so wasteful with our chances. The last few games we've had an XG of I think 19, and we've scored 4 goals, I believe, 3 or 4 goals. The other day was a prime example of that. We had an XG of nearly 3 goals, 3 shots on target, effectively meaning 3 of our shots should have led to goals, and they didn't do. The players need to start being more clinical. At the end of the day, Rangnick is setting up these players, and it's up to the players to go and convert that. And they need to have a bit of responsibility on themselves, because I'm afraid they no longer have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to hide behind. And Rangnick has done a very good job, I believe. He's set the team up very well. His substitutions have been great, I think. The team are creating chances, but they're not putting them away. And this run of games that we've had, I think the last 14 games that we've had, we've accumulated about 25 points. And now we're getting into the tough end of the season, where these next 4 weeks, I can't actually see us picking up any points on current form, on current performances. They're not scoring goals. They're not being lethal in front of the goal. They're not in the same breath, and I hate doing it because obviously they're leaps and bounds ahead of us. But when you look at Liverpool, the only team who have created more chances than us in the past few games are Liverpool. We've scored 3 goals, I believe. Liverpool have scored 17. It just shows the difference between the two teams. Our season will only improve once the players start being clinical in front of goal. And until that changes, like if you can't score a goal against Watford, who arguably are now the worst team in the league, then there's serious questions that need to be asked, I'm afraid, because I alluded to it before. Nobody was bad on Saturday, but nobody was good. And when you've got Nemanja Matic, who's your best player, a 30-odd-year-old Serbian being your best player, I think it shows a very big problem. And I think it shows the importance of having a very good and competent number 6 in the midfield. And unfortunately, Matic can't play every single game because of his age. And we knew this. And we knew it at the start of the season, and we didn't rectify the issue. So they have to start being more clinical in front of goal. Because if they don't be, we will be in for a very, very poor end to the season and a very, very poor finish in the league.
Go on.
Just very quickly, just bouncing back to Callum on this one, because I think it's a great point that you bring up. At the start of the season, we looked like that we had so many strikers and so much creativity, and we got the creativity, like so we're creating chances, but we should have had the goal scorers there as well. You look at our, whether it be start 11 or our squad, we got 6 or 7 strikers at the start of the season that I'm sure a lot of us, a lot of teams would have been happy with. Is it a mentality thing, do you think, or is it down to ability, or are we just overhyping the players? Because there's a lot of quality there, but it's not working.
I don't think it's anything about overhyping the players, because these players are good. I think there's other issues around the players that you can bring in. So the likes of Fernandes is a fantastic player, but he's a very emotional player. And until he starts composing himself in a slightly calmer way, I think there's a very good player in there. But sometimes he can lose his head, and I think you can see it on the pitch because his passes start going a bit wayward. Mentality could be an issue, like I said before. I think there's a few of these players that just don't have what it takes mentally to be a Manchester United player. We just alluded to it then with Roy Keane and Gary Neville saying that they didn't even listen to pundits when they were playing. I think maybe a few of these do, and I think of course that's just an opinion. There's no kind of factual basis to that, but I think there's a genuine mentality issue for some of these players that they just haven't mentally got what it takes to play for United. And again, like I say, there's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, if that is the case, then they need to move on, and that's just the be all and end of it. And I think the other issue is, and I will definitely allude to this when it comes to what's on my mind, but there's a huge reliance on Ronaldo. The guy's 37, and I don't even think himself thought that he was going to be playing every single game. But of course, we've got the Greenwood issue. Rashford doesn't even deserve to be near a Man United shirt at the minute, and I really don't know what's happened to him. I worry for him, but he just doesn't deserve to be in a red shirt at the moment. Cavani just can't be bothered. He seems to have gained his cult hero status, yet he seems to have disappeared again. People are saying we should have never loaned Martial out, but he's played less than Cavani this season, and when he did play, he was shocking and didn't bring anything to us. Of course, you can look then into the youth team. You've got Charlie McNeil, as a big talent as he probably looks at. He's probably not ready, and that's not his fault. He's just an immature player, and that's and he's probably quite lightweight as well. But that comes down to the type of football he's playing at the moment. But again, none of this is his fault. So I think there's so many different variables that you can speak about in terms of whether it's mentality, whether the players are good enough, whether they've let the manager down, whether the over-reliance on Ronaldo is a problem. There's so many different things we can talk about, because I don't think there's one reason why it's gone so wrong this year. I personally would say, in fact, no, I will say I think the main issue, of course, there's smaller issues behind that, but the main issue is the Glazers, and it will always be. The biggest issue and the biggest problem at Man United, and it has been for 17 years now, will be the Glazer family. And I don't believe, this could be for another show, I don't believe Man United will get anywhere near the top again with these as owners. Our success was because of Ferguson. It wasn't because of the Glazers, it was in spite of them. And I think you've seen that over the past decade, once Ferguson retired. They have destroyed the club. They have simply destroyed the club, and I think that is why I think they saw Ronaldo signing as a profitability marketing signing. I don't think he was ever going to City at all. So, look, there's loads of things that I can say, but I'd always pin it back to the Glazers, never the manager.
I think just reining it back to what was the original thing? What went wrong and what to look forward to? I think was the original.
Yeah, how can we turn it around? Yeah,
that was it. So I think the thing is, there's not a lot to look forward to now, is there? Because we're not in the title race. We're at the FA Cup. We're at the League Cup. So there's not really a lot to, obviously, the Champions League, but the big nights in the Champions League. That's great. I think, to be honest, just if I could say one thing to towards the end of the season, just bring the positivity back, because there's a lot of negative culture around Manchester United, and it's creeping into the ground. The TRA are not as loud as they were, kind of 2-3 months ago. The whole ground, there's just every today's show, everything we talk about around United is negative. There's not a positive. Now, obviously, winning football matches help, but there's so many off the field issues. I'm not going to mention it because it doesn't. We all know what we're on about there. Off the field issues, that the whole thing with the Glazer family, and all this kind of thing, and the football's not great, and everything just seems to be so negative. So before the end of the season, if we don't win a trophy, if we don't win the Champions League, whatever, I don't expect us to anyway. But I just want us to change the culture, get some positivity back. Whether we see some more youngsters push through, I don't know. I don't think any of them are quite there yet. Hannibal's probably closest, but other than that, Callum mentioned Charlie McNeil there. There's no way he'd be ready for first team yet. Quality player, but he's still 2-3 years, I think, away. Yeah.
To be fair, Connie, you're probably right in that, and I did say that myself. To be fair, but what I meant by that is, so was Marcus when he joined. When he came in because of all the injuries in 2016, he was too lightweight, and look how that worked. I don't think there's I think with the over-reliance on Ronaldo, I don't think there'd be any harm giving it a try at this point, because.
No, Can I just flip it slightly then back to you then? I think this is kind of going a little bit off tangent, but I think the one thing I've said in the last few years is we've had over-reliance on a youngster. Every season it was Januzaj, all those years ago. Then it was Martial, then it was Rashford, then it was Greenwood. And now now it's Elanga. Are we going to then throw McNeil in for the rest of the season and next season and go, right, fix our issue? I don't know. That's just me kind of flipping it back around. But I don't know. I wouldn't be... Even though it would be great to see another youngster come into and I think we probably will see some more before the end of the season when we're kind of out of reach, or say we've qualified for top 4, or we're out of reach of it. But I don't know. I don't know whether that is the right way in terms of bringing them in now because of just what's surrounding United at the moment.
I think just on the back of some of the stuff that you said there, Conor, I think a lot of these high points only last a very short time. So, bringing Ronaldo back, bringing Sancho in, that was a high point but it only lasted for about 3 or 4 weeks before fans started to get frustrated. And, the start of the season, winning Leeds, it was a high point, but it was a very short area, qualifying for Champions League, or having a couple of good games at the start of the Champions League, all the positive moments, they are there, but they quickly get forgotten about and pushed aside because we're just not consistent on the pitch. And I agree with Callum. I think every fan knows what the biggest issue is there, but it's very hard to spin positives every week when the results aren't there on the pitch, and it can get quite frustrating, can't it? Carl, do you want to come in on that one before I ask Dale this question on screen?
I would, bring Charlie McNeil and put him on the bench for the rest of the season. There's no harm in bringing him on for the last 20 minutes of games if we need a goal, because he might end up getting one. We've seen what the likes of Federico Makeda done at 17 when they brought him off the bench for a few games. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just... I'm not saying start him, that would be ridiculous, but if we're 1-0 down or we're 1 each on the 70-minute mark, there's no harm in bringing them on, I think.
Dale, Sleepless Robin has asked, what kind of identity on a football pitch do you guys think suit United? Controlling possession, pressing, counter-attacks like under Fergie, which will get the best results? I mean, everyone's going to have their own opinion on this.
Yeah.
And I'll just ask you on this one, and then we'll move on to Callum's topic. But, just what's your thoughts on that question, mate?
Well, obviously, I'd love for us to do all three if we can, but obviously it's impossible to do that. But obviously, I feel like controlling the possession at the minute, some players seem scared to show for the ball, especially in the middle of the park, which I think we discussed on last week. We've got like two midfielders in Bruno and Pogba running away, and obviously Pogba tries to run himself out of danger, and then we just lose the ball. That's not going to help in a controlling possession type game. Obviously, you could try and drum it into him, but I don't think he'll change his ways because that's just who he is and who he has been since he's been at United. The pressing, we're trying the pressing stuff. It's not pretty, our pressing. Sometimes it can pay off, sometimes it doesn't. I've always loved the counter attack because I just feel like it's you soak up the pressure and then you just get quick pace bombing up, like we used to do back in the day. And I feel like we did that quite well under Ole at times. Obviously, when we had when we was playing with the front three up front. Obviously with Martial, he was quick, Rashford rapid as well, Greenwood. So I feel like but obviously the whole Greenwood situation, that's out the window. And obviously I feel like Ronaldo isn't as quick as the others. I think Alanga's pace at the minute is ridiculous. Yeah, I feel like on a counter attack he would help us hugely, but it's putting that over reliance on a youngster, which obviously Connor said. And obviously, we don't want to put that pressure on him. We want him to find his game and adapt well and grow into that mature player. So I feel it's hard. I honestly don't know what we can do at the minute. That's just how lost I feel we am as United. And like I said, I know that's negative, and I've been quite negative tonight. But that's just how what's happened when I just watch United and see United and everything coming from United. Obviously, I don't know. I'd love it to be counter attacks. Because I just find them, I just love them. Last minute goals, quick counter attack, 1-2s up and down the pitch, bang it in the back of the net. But obviously, I would like us to do the pressing as well. Press the ball, be quick on the ball, try and win the 50-50s. You know what I mean? But I feel like we don't even do that. We struggle to do that. I know we're trying to get that adapted to our game now. That'd be nice. I don't think we can control the possession. I don't think we've got players competent enough to do that. Unless it's just the back four passing it left to right. That's the only way we'd control possession in the game. But obviously, further up the pitch, you need them triangles, and once you try them, we just don't succeed with them as well as other teams like Man City. So yeah, it's a sticky one. That's a hard question to answer. So I don't know if anyone else wants to follow up question before we move on. But yeah,
Sounded like you went underwater then a bit, Dale.
I was messing with my headphones and I thought it might have been me.
Oh, was it me? Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Can you hear me now?
You're okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
It's probably because I was just a bit. I don't know what happened there.
Go on, Callum, mate. What's on your mind?
So I'll do this slightly different then. I'll ask you the question, and then we'll come back to me, I guess. Was signing Ronaldo a mistake?
Shall I make a start? I'll make a start. Give you guys a chance to have a think. It depends, like we said at the start of the show. You know, do you believe what you read? All this kind of stuff. If you
all right, we'll solely keep it on a footballing point of view.
Okay. Throw myself in a deep end. Answer this one first.
I can jump on it if you're struggling, John.
Well, obviously there's pros and cons. I think at the end of the day, he started the season really well. Him personally, obviously missing chances now. As he ruins things on the pitch, if he does things that other players can't do, in a negative sense, I'm on about now. For example, if the likes of Cavani was on the pitch at the start of the season, who would press better than Ronaldo, then obviously that's a downfall. Did we ever buy him purely to fit the system, or was it just to keep him at United? I agree with Callum, by the way. I don't think he would have ever chose City over. If he's going to come back to England, I don't think he would have chose City. But that's just my opinion. Was it a mistake? If it's a yes or no, then I would say no. I think we could have dealt. I think we could have dealt with things differently. I think this is definitely going to be a 50-50 split. If you put a poll out on the All for United account, it could be very much 50-50. But Callum, do you want to jump in there, or do you want to wait for everyone else to answer your?
Go on then. I'll jump in slightly then. No, I don't think it was a mistake. I do think he is an issue. I don't think he's the main issue at the moment. The problem with Ronaldo, when he was coming to the latest stages of his career and he was at Juventus, he started linking up the play quite well, and I think that kind of play that we thought we were going to get from him did fit what we wanted to do. I think I think the problem is at the moment is he's not doing that, whether he's out of form, whether he's struggling with the creativity from other players, whether he's, because, one stage of that I could say is probably the fullbacks. The fullbacks are getting nowhere near involved enough. Whatever's happened to Shaw, I'd personally have Shaw out the door tomorrow. But we kind of need to look at the last few games. So he's blanked in his last 8 out of 9 games. And the game that he scored, it was 1 goal against Brighton. He's wasteful with his chances. He's not the most clinical player in the world. And I think that shows how good he is that he's got so many goals. Because in the teams that he's always played for, so the first stage of when he was at United, Real Madrid and Juventus, they were top teams surrounded by top players. And he always had chances created for him. And the guy would shoot from absolutely everywhere. So he'd create a chance out of nothing because of how good he is. And it doesn't seem to be happening at the moment for United. And with that being the case, he is struggling. He's a guy that needs so many chances to score goals, but he's always had those chances, whether him creating them himself or someone else creating them for him. And we saw it at the start of the season when he came Newcastle game. He found a chance out of nowhere and scored 2 goals. And it doesn't seem to have carried on. Like I say, we do need more from some players. Like I say, the XG has been quite good over the past few games, but we still need more. You've seen other teams, the fullbacks get so involved, but I think United have a little bit of a responsibility on Ronaldo at the moment. He's played 4 games in 11 days, and as much of an anomaly he is and a super nature, he is still 37. And what I alluded to before about the whole over-reliance on him, I don't even think he thought he was going to be playing this much. Cavani can't be bothered. I don't care what anyone says, but he's gone again. Where is he now? Mason Greenwood has got his issues at the moment, which has caused us a big heartache. Rashford doesn't belong in a red shirt at the moment. I think there's something wrong with him mentally. I genuinely don't know, but he's just nowhere near it. Martial was just garbage. Like I say, Charlie McNeil probably isn't ready, but I think that on Saturday would have been perfect for McNeil to try and just give him a go. Like I say, we need to look after him. He shouldn't be playing as much as he is. And the thing is, with him blanking 8 out of 9 games, he will know himself that his standards are so high, and he knows that isn't good enough. I think he doesn't help himself when he runs straight off the pitch without clapping the fans. That can be a problem. But he will know his standards are so big, and he knows that himself, and especially the team needs to do better, because there is no way he came back to United to finish 5th, 6th or 7th. And I think this is the shot. I think he's come back to United, and I think he's had a huge reality check at what's happened to the club over the last decade. I think he's quite shocked at the standards and the drop in standards over the last 15 years since when he left last time. Like I say, I don't think he's the problem, but he needs more creativity around him because he needs multiple chances because he's not that clinical. And I don't think he should be playing every game. No, to put it completely short and to answer my own question, no, I don't think it was a mistake, but we do need more around him. The reason why I don't think it was a mistake is because without him, we'd be out of the Champions League, because I don't know who else would have done what he did. And without him, we'd be further down the league because of his last-minute goals that he's done. I don't think he's the issue. His form at the moment is an issue, but you're going to persevere with Ronaldo because there's simply not another option instead of him at the minute to try. And unfortunately, we are just going to have to, because unless Cavani can be bothered, we're going to have to keep with Ronaldo, or maybe try Bruno in the striker option. But then you're taking out a midfield when the midfield's already weak as it is. But no, I don't think it was a mistake. I think we needed more in the summer, as well as Ronaldo, but that goes back to the Glazers not sanctioning that extra signing, which they weren't going to do anyway without Ronaldo. So
I think just to answer your question as well, no, it wasn't a mistake. I said when we signed him, and I probably shouldn't have, but I guess I've got to stand by what I said, that I don't care if he doesn't score a single goal. The fact that I got to see him live again at Old Trafford was a plus. Now, I get it, there's no place for, kind of emotion and nostalgia and all that kind of thing in football, but anyone who was there, and I'm sure people that watched, I hope people that watched at home as well got the same experience. I was lucky enough to be there, for his comeback game, obviously scored twice, but I cannot describe to anyone what that was like in Old Trafford that day, and obviously in and around Manchester, just everyone for hours. I've never seen so many people 2-3 hours after the game had finished, still around Old Trafford. It was so, I said that when he signed. How it's weird with Ronaldo because he's actually scoring less the more chances we create. At the start of the season, I was defending him, saying he's not scoring as many because we're not creating anything, but he was still getting, the odd goal. Like Callum said there, kept us in the Champions League, and he was continually providing when we thought we're not creating anything. Now we're creating a load of chances and he's not scoring any. So it's really weird to see what's happened with him, because you'd think it would be the other way around. Obviously, we don't know what's happened. Whether, I think somebody said on our show on Monday, John, that Ronaldo looks mentally and physically fatigued. He probably is. He's with everything. This is probably the first time in his career for a long time that he's been questioned as a starter. You go back 10, 15, the last 10, 15 years, he's been the guaranteed starter in a team, and he's always been the one providing, winning trophies and all that kind of thing. He's come back to United. We're out of the title race. We're not going to win the Champions League. We're out of both cups, and he's not the main guy anymore. So I think he probably has had a reality check himself and go, oh, God, this is not what I thought it was. I don't know what he thought when he joined back, but you think back to the time when he signed. Everyone was talking about United as a potential title-winning team, and Ronaldo was going to be that guy to take us, that next level or whatever. Everyone in the summer was like, Varane, Sancho, Ronaldo, what a window. We're going to go on now and kick on, especially after second season before final of Europa League, whatever. So now it's kind of flipped around. So he probably is getting mentally and physically fatigued from that, I think. But it wasn't a mistake for me. The moments he's given us this season, yes, that's not everything, but I think when you're not winning, you hang on to little moments, and the Newcastle game is going to be a highlight for me personally.
Yeah, Jarvis has raised a good point, which I put on screen earlier. Well, he was saying something slightly different to the guys on the panel, saying Ronaldo was a big mistake because he didn't necessarily suit our system, but he's still not knocking the actual talent that he's got. He's just not suited United. They obviously left a comment on screen right there as well. Dale, what are your thoughts? Where were you sitting on this one?
I agree with obviously what Connor said, like to a T. To be fair, which everything he said, I come back, and stuff that Callum said as well. Obviously, I don't think it was a mistake. Obviously, the hype around it was crazy. I remember speaking to you about it actually, John, on WhatsApping you, and obviously when we signed Sancho and stuff like that. I was buzzed. I was ecstatic that we signed him. And obviously, when he did score them goals against Newcastle, like Connor says, it was crazy. It was everyone was so happy, and obviously we did think we could win the league this year after so many years.
But that's where they get us. That's where the
exactly.
And I'm not turning that into a negative, but that's kind of what they wanted, isn't it? And we had every right to believe and feel the happiness. We had every right to do that. But sorry, Dale, just to cut you off.
That's fine.
That's what I wanted.
It's like, I do agree as well. If it wasn't for Ronaldo, we wouldn't be in the Champions League now. We'd be in the Europa League, or even worse, maybe. Who knows? But yeah, obviously, I don't think it was a mistake. I don't feel like his service the last few games has been outstanding. But he did have that great chance against Watford, and he just hit it wide. And usually, he just slot it back in the net. Simple. The ball just fell to him. And I just couldn't wrap my head around. I literally screamed at the TV, and I was literally saying sub off Ronaldo. And I think that's how people are getting frustrated now. One of the goats can't put it in the back of the net no more. And it's upsetting to see a man that we all loved and adore years ago age, in essence. But that's football for you, and that's life.
I don't even know if it's that. The guy has been offside more than anyone else in the league this year. Like, he needs to get himself. Like, he did score against Watford, but again, he was offside.
Yeah,
there's something seriously not right at the moment, and I genuinely do think. I can't remember. It might have been Johnny or Connor said it, but he look mentally and physically fatigued.
That was Connor.
That's not on him.
finish off with yourself there then, Kyle. What are you thinking about Ronaldo at the moment?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that everybody's been saying. I don't think it was a mistake. He still got 15 goals. The six that he's got in the Champions League has obviously kept us in that tournament. Um, like I say, he's played 4 games in 11 days. It's far too much for a 37-year-old. He's obviously playing all those games because Cavani has not made himself available for us, and Ronaldo's being overplayed. Like the offside thing, I think what he's doing there is because of his lack of pace now, he's trying to give himself as much of he's playing on the shoulder of the last defender, and obviously he's not timing his runs perfectly. He's getting cut offside too much. And like you also said, Callum, he's never been a prolific goal scorer. At United, back in the noughties, and at Madrid and Juve, those teams created so many chances for him, and he was shooting from everywhere and scoring from everywhere. So at the minute, it's not new that he's missing chances. It's just that he's not getting as many, and obviously the service has been dire at times as well. If everyone remembers the Atletico game where the ball was crossed in twice from the right and once from the left,
so
and all the
bad.
crosses went over the top of his head, and he was like, "One decent cross, please, one decent cross."
And do you know what? That was Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford. Like, oh Jesus, that was shocking.
Yeah, so we're going through a bit of a period here where we have one game in just 15 days, the Manchester Derby. So maybe that might give him a wee bit of respite, and he'll come back refreshed for the end of the season, and we might see the best of him. If he scores at Anfield and scores at the Etihad, none of us are going to be talking about Ronaldo being a mistake, are we? We're going to be saying that the GOAT is back.
I was going to read out the statement that Murto and Arnold put out yesterday, and I'll just finish the show with Connor's thoughts on them. So I'm just going to read them out now, just in case anybody hasn't heard them. So John Murto said that Manchester United will keep fighting for a top 4 finish this season, but insisted that winning major trophies must always remain the club's primary target. Now, to me, that's something that any kind of club would say. I think it's time to deliver. So we're just saying that. I mean, anyone could say that. I could write the exact same thing. But I guess that I don't even know if he's written this himself or he's just thought to himself, okay, let's get a fan involved and what do the fans want to hear? But that's basically his first statement. He goes on to say that United are battling to stay ahead of West Ham, Arsenal and Tottenham in the tight race to qualify for next season's Champions League. So in my head there, I'm thinking if we're supposed to be a club that's challenging for titles, but we're currently battling for West Ham, Arsenal and Tottenham, something's gone completely wrong there. Murto said top 4 finish was not the ultimate objective for Manchester United, and everyone at the club is focused on challenging for the top trophies. United football director said a thorough process is underway and a search for a new permanent manager who will take charge this summer with the objective to get us back challenging for those domestic and European titles. He goes on to talk about the women's team and the academy teams as well. I think the top and tail of it is he's put a statement out and he said things that fans want to hear. But I think more than anything, we want to see things on the pitch, don't we? Richard Arnold goes on to say our central objective as a football club are that we are focused on building and winning a culture to achieve it. And it's frustrating because I just don't see what culture that we've actually kind of laughing at me thinking, I've never seen John so negative, but it frustrates me because what they're saying here, I'm just not seeing it. But I'll just repeat that. Our central objective as a football club, and we are focused on building a winning culture to achieve it. Kind of just what are your thoughts on that? And it's not very often that people hear me pretty much be so negative on this, but when it comes to these kind of statements, it frustrates me because it's okay saying one thing, I've actually got to start seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what they say at the minute. It's still a football club, just about. So ultimately, it's going to be on results. Now, don't get me wrong. Everything else that they said in their thing and everything that came out of the meeting that we're aware of, they're technically correct. But ultimately, they're going to be judged on results. The last the thing is, we all know. I could go on about Woodward and go on about previous, and I can go. We all know this. We don't need to have this conversation again because it's stuff that we all know. But I think there has been and I don't want anyone to clip this and think I'm backing the Glazers up here or I'm backing anyone up here. But I will say there has been a slight change in terms of the communication that's come out and some of the things they're delivering on. They are some of the things that they said that they were going to do. They are starting to do now. Now, that's not a defence of the last 17
only
years
because
or so.
we've made them because of their absolute shambolic handling of the Super League. Like, we forced them to do this. Sorry, Connor.
No. I was going to say I fully agree, but that was just my kind of side point to it was the fans have forced this, which is a good thing. I mean, it's, well, not really that it's taken so long, but at least it seems to be changing. But what I will say, like I said, off the back of those comments that you just read out, I think he probably does mean it. But are they willing to put the work in to get
Are they good enough? Are they actually good enough? Do they know what
exactly
they're doing?
that? So are they willing to go that extra thing like other clubs, like the clubs that they mentioned, West Ham, Arsenal? They all want to get back. Well, Arsenal get back, but West Ham, they want to be pushing into that top four now. You cannot compete with that if they're striving for the top, and we're just happy with where we are. So I think there has been a slight change. He probably believes that he can achieve those things that he said, but ultimately it's going to depend on the next few years because who knows where we're going to be next season. Like I said at the start of this season, I thought we'd win the league, and now I don't even, like Callum said earlier, we could be in the Conference League next year, so I really don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've got to say that sort of stuff because they've got to look like to shareholders that, and to, obviously on the stock exchange, that they've got to be shown to be proactive in some kind of way. Not that they ever have been for the past decade. My main worry is, like I said before, I just don't think anything's going to happen meaningful is going to happen with these as owners. And the thing is that, they can spout a load of stuff into the press about how we're going to look for another director and all this, and same with the women's team and the academy and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, over the last decade, actions have spoke louder than words. And these owners tried to put us into a Super League that had no relegation or promotion or anything like that, and took away the very basis of English football for their own personal financial gain. Like I say, it's PR. They've got to say that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We were supposed to be challenging for the league this year, and they still messed up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still yet to see much from John Merso. I think things maybe are changing. The problem is things are only changing because of us and what we achieved outside the ground before the Liverpool game. I think that my concern is, obviously, you've got City, who are owned by a nation. You've got the same with Newcastle now. Chelsea, I know, he's obviously put the club up for sale, but a Russian oligarch who's been their owner for the past 18 years. My worry is, to compete at the top level now, you need an owner that is so unbelievably rich, and the Glazers aren't willing to invest because they take money and bleed money out of the club all the time. Top four, it's no longer a case of talking about winning a league, but just trying to stay in the top four is going to be a challenge, because West Ham are improving, but you've got Newcastle that will start spending money on players now and having a structure that will probably look like City's in 5-10 years. So just getting into the top four is going to be a struggle. You know what I mean? You've got City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham. Arsenal want to get back. Newcastle will start pushing in the next few years. Everton are going to want to start pushing into it if they stay in the league. West Ham are doing really well because of Moyes. It's no longer just 4 teams that are just guaranteed top 4. And if the Glazers continue as they're going, all this stuff that they say on conference calls will genuinely become meaningless, because the owners aren't going to invest, and they're just going to continue to bleed the club dry, and they're going to allow United to fall behind because they are not good businessmen. They are not football people, and I worry that with the Glazers in charge, United are just going to fall even further. I genuinely still believe this is going to get so much worse before it gets so much. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Yeah, I understand that point, right? I fully do. I understand they want an investment or a return on their investment, but the Glazers have took £1.1 billion out of the club, whilst Man City's owners have put £1 billion into it. They've paid themselves £125 million in dividends over the last few years, averaging at 40. Last season, I believe it was £42 million. But like, our debt's just gone up to £500 million. Like, forget your returns on investment. They are bleeding the club dry and using it as a cash cow for their own personal gain, whilst United are still struggling. We're a football club. We're not a cash cow for greedy American billionaires. There's another debate that you could go morally that billionaires are inherently evil anyway. But unfortunately, in today's game, the amount of money in it, you unfortunately need them. But I understand the whole return on investment thing. But the way they're doing it and what they're doing to this club is a disgrace. They should never have been allowed to buy the club. Who, may I add, Ed Woodward helped leverage the deal. The absolute cheek of it and the scumbag. I couldn't care less about returns on investments. Do it by investing in the club and showing the fans that you care. £1.1 billion has been taken out of the club in 17 years. Like, imagine how that could have been used. Like, it's disgraceful what these owners have done to us.
Kyle, last word with yourself, mate.
Yeah, what Richard Arnold's been saying in the last couple of days is just, it's past 9 o'clock now, so we can say it. He's just recycling the same bullshit that Ed Woodward has been saying for the last 8 years. There is some hope because they now have like a football board with Fletcher and Murto, and they apparently they're going to appoint a deputy football director as well. It could be someone like Paul Mitchell. That definitely would be progress, but
I'd love that.
That all depends on the football board being, just because they're football people doesn't mean they're going to be competent. They need to be the right kind of football directors for us to be successful. But ultimately, they have to be left to their own device. Arnold's been promising that also, that he's not going to get involved in football decisions like Ed Woodward. But like I said earlier, the proof will be in the pudding in the summer. How this window goes this summer of 2022 will tell us a lot about how Richard Arnold's kind of tenure is going to go.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree, and it's been great talking to you all. And I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to Rayhan. I know he had a bit of issues with his internet, so he must have dipped out halfway through and couldn't get back on. So apologies for that. We'll try and get him back on at another point. Look, it's been great chatting to you all. It's the first time I've spoken to a couple of you, so it's been great. And the guys in the comments as well, thank you very much. I'll try and get as many on screen throughout the weeks as much as I can. I think in summary today, I think I asked 4 or 5 fans what's on the mind, and the majority of it is unfortunately negative stuff, because that must be what's going on at the moment. And I don't know too much about yourself, Kyle or Callum, but me, Connor, and Dale, we're fairly positive people. Speak to us in the stadium, we try and. Well, I'd like to get Stu Woolley on, but I know he plays football on a Wednesday. But
I think Stu's the best one on this channel. Sorry, Connor, but I think you'll probably agree. I think Stu's probably the best guy we've got on all for United.
Stu's a cracking guy. He comes on the WSC channels once every fortnight or so, and I agree. He's a great guy. And but this isn't the Stu show. But when Stu does eventually come on, I'll make sure that we say that. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me on the first show, and we'll try and make some positive comments maybe, or positive topics next week. We'll try and spice it up a little bit. But this was very honest today. I've asked 4 or 5 people who, someone knows, someone don't know, and they've just been honest. This is what the first thing on their mind, and this is what they've turned around and said. So there must be some truth behind it. So let's see what we can bring next week to the table. So thank you, Callum, Connor, Dale, and Kyle. Thank you to everybody in the comments, and we shall see you again next week. Thank you, guys.